Good evening, everybody. Hello. I am Molly Moran. I'm the owner of Table Wine in Madison. And I'm so excited for this evening. It's the first time that I've taught a class all about Carignan. So this is Get to Know Carignan. We're going to talk about this grape, the ins and outs of it. If you are joining us live, please take a moment to fill out the one question poll. And there's the question on the table that is, what is your favorite Halloween costume ever? Either one that you wore or that you saw someone wear. We have some cute answers, but we don't have as many answers as I'm used to seeing. So shout things out. I'm seeing a little kid dressed up as a ring-tailed lemur, which sounds absolutely adorable. Janet from The Good Place, and then all of the friends dressing up like the different emotions from Inside Out, which I absolutely adore. I am so sorry, everybody. I have to pause for just a second. I've never had to do this before. I have a brand new employee and she's texting me a question. I'm really sorry. This is embarrassing. This is real life here. Oh no, I do need to apologize. This is like, you are my focus right now. So anyway, hi. she's really wonderful, but I don't know that she is aware of the, hey, don't text Molly during class time. So anyway, sorry, back to this. Okay, so thank you everybody for backing me up and saying no worries about that. If you're not watching live, sorry for that weird delay in time. Are there any other awesome Halloween costumes? There has to be more than that. We live in Madison. People have to have seen really cool things, no? I'll share mine. I think my favorite was going with my then boyfriend, now husband, and my best friend, and we went as the Royal Tenenbaums, and I went as Margot. I had like the eyeliner and the whole thing. This was the year that it came out. So this is OG Royal Tenenbaums. I have a fur coat that I wore and everything. And my husband wore a Richie suit, like the tan suit and the sweatband and everything, and had a tennis racket. We were at this party and people legit asked us if we were in costume. They were like, "Are you dressed up? What are you?" And I was like, "I'm sitting here with like a pretend fake finger. This, my friend has like fake mice on her." Yeah, we're in costume. So anyway, my cousin and her friends went as Clue characters. That sounds really great. Ooh, Transformers. Yeah, I love it. I've never gone to, what is it called? Is it called Freak Fest? I've never gone to Halloween here in Madison. Sounds a little daunting. So, all right. I think we've covered I think the ice has been broken. when I had to go text my employee, I think the ice got broken, right? So if you are joining us live, we use the chat quite a bit. If you are not joining us live, I will do my absolute best to kind of reiterate what people are saying in the chat so that you feel like you're here with us, because I understand that, for one reason or another, you might not be watching this live. I'm going to take a quick gander at the poll. So the question was, how often do you buy Carignan? And I ask some version of this question pretty much every time I teach a single varietal class. And the answers that are usually with other grapes, there's like a wider spread. But this is really interesting because the majority of people answering, at least, said that they rarely or never buy Carignan because they're not familiar with it or not had it before. So that's really exciting. It's really exciting. I talked to one of you, Carol. I talked to Carol earlier today, and she was saying, I don't know that I've ever had this grape before. And I don't think of this, obviously, I understand that this is not Cab or Pinot, but I do think of it as something like in my repertoire as a wine cellar. And so it was really interesting for me to see that it's not in all of your repertoires as wine buyers. So let's explore it a little bit. I'm going to give you some fundamental information about the grape on the whole, and then we will get into these individual wines. If you want a glass of wine, because, you you're an adult and you feel like drinking, I would say start with the Lioco Indica, which is the California. So start there. So some fundamental information. For a long time, people thought Carignan came from Italy because so many things, so many grapes come from that direction, come from Italy. I mean, maybe even east of Italy, come from Italy and then move towards Spain. But in this case, it has been, in theory, solidly decided, although they had solidly decided this before, but let's call it solidly decided, that Carignan actually originated in northwest Spain, in a town called Carignana, which kind of ironically doesn't really grow very good Carignan anymore. But that is where the grape's name comes from. That's where the grape is originally from. So unlike a lot of things where they come west, this one went east. So it started in northwest Spain and then it moved eastward with a lot of religious back and forth conquering kind of things. That's how a lot of grapes travel. I don't know if y'all know that, but that's how a lot of this stuff happened and why there was so much spreading. Because of Catholicism. More or less. So general characteristics about Carignan. It's medium in body. The acidity is actually a little higher here. So it's kind of like medium high, and then medium tannins. So it's one of those medium wines. It's kind of in that middle ground on a lot of these different things. Because it does have some nice acidity, it can age, generally speaking, just across the board for Carignan, about 5 to 10 years. It's not like necessarily that you need to lay it down for 30 years. But if you wanted to get a bottle and kind of see how it changes over time, Carignan is a really fun thing to do because it's not expected. I'm going to talk about this in a little bit more detail, but I will say that Carignan has often upon opening right away, it has a slight astringency to it. So it's one of the times where I actually do recommend decanting. I don't think you have to. I'm not going to decant tonight. And I do recommend trying a wine before you decide to decant it because you may be totally happy with it the way that it is. But if this astringency thing with any of these wines kind of catches you off guard or it's not your jam, decanting for about 30-ish minutes would be a great way to take care of that. Food pairings. Thanksgiving is a month away. I'm going to say this. Carignan is a sleeper hit at the Thanksgiving table because it's really good with cinnamon and kind of all baking spice things. It's really good with red berries, like cranberries. It's also good with like raspberries and things like that. But in the case of Thanksgiving, those would be your red berries. And it's good with smoky meats. So it is kind of a perfect Thanksgiving wine, which is kind of why I placed this wine placed this class where I did, not necessarily 100% because it is still just October, not trying to rush us. Because this grape is unfamiliar to a lot of you, this slide is here to kind of give you a general sense of the kinds of things you might expect to smell and taste. If while we are smelling and tasting any of these wines, you want me to go back to this slide, please feel free to drop that in the chat and I'm happy to come back here. So within the fruit world, if you read about Carignan, people tend to really focus on the red fruit thing. They talk about cranberry and raspberry a lot. I pick up on a lot of blue and black fruit in a lot of different Carignans I taste. So I'm just going to present those as an option, like on the side of the Lioco bottle, if any of you, for those of you who have it with you, they have the notes of blueberry compote, black raspberry, plum skin. Like they think that. And Lafarge Tesselae on their website, they talk about the black fruit. So I don't really know why then in what's supposed to be kind of more objective, wider view wine reference material, they talk about just red fruit. So I'm going to include all of those. Earth and minerals and animal, like cured meat, like bacon fat. Those are things that take people by surprise. They are savory and they can be polarizing. So heads up that some meatiness might be coming your way. And then within herbs and spices, um, things that I think will be relatively familiar to you, like baking spices. But then also a licorice thing, like a black licorice thing, tobacco, which can be hard to kind of pinpoint. And I'm not saying that you're necessarily going to smell or taste it with any of these wines, but just like know that it is an available option and that it is something that you might come across in a Carignan either tonight or in the future. Before we jump into the Liocco, are there any questions about that fundamental information? Okay, then let's do it. Let's start with the United States. This will be, I think, the only time in my life that I will teach a wine class in which the countries represented are the United States, Italy, and France. And we're going to start with California and end with France. That never happens. When I structure these, you have to take a lot of different things into account. One of the things you take into account is wines with lower alcohol. You usually do those first. You have to take into account tannins and just kind of general like overall boldness of the wines. And so in a really weird circumstance, our California friend is actually the lightest of the bunch, and our French one is the ripest of the bunch. So there we go. So in the United States, Carignan is often used in blends. You don't see a lot of single varietal Carignan from anywhere in the US. If you were not able to shop with us, I'm curious to see if you found any American Carignans, because I'm curious what else, is out there and what else you've had. We actually carry at least a couple, as much as I possibly can, whenever they are available. So we have this in the store quite frequently. And then I also have Folk Machines Carignan quite frequently. In the US, for some reason, we put an E on the end of the word. So if you see it from an American producer, you're going to see it with an E. The most common region for it is Mendocino, California. That's where this wine is from. That's where the Folk Machine is from. That's where a lot of it is grown when you see it single varietally. If it is used in blends, it's often grown in the Central Coast, just kind of like throughout that kind of really warm region. The reason for that is that Carignan is a pretty late ripening grape. So it takes a long time for it to ripen. So the way to achieve that ripening and to get it to be like anywhere near the same timeline as the rest of the grapes is to grow it someplace warm. And then you use it in blends and you don't really care. They use it in blends for the color. I think you can kind of see if you've poured yourself some, like it has this really nice kind of purpley hue. And so often people use it in blends to give it some color and to give it some of that berry fruit. In California, Carignans, you'll notice more of that blue-black fruit that I was mentioning and really nice minerality. Basically, the thought here is that a winery that is producing Carignan from California is doing it because it's a labor of love. They're doing it because for some reason or another, they are drawn to Carignan. It's not a moneymaker, right? You all have said that you've never had this grape before, right? So like they know that they are making a wine that has to be babied a bit, has to be sold a little bit, doesn't just jump off the shelf. So I tend to think of those wines as good wines to try. Not necessarily that I'm going to love each and every one of them, but that it's often a mark of a winemaker's interest or a winery's like little pet project. And so they're often really well made. So feel free to give it a swirl and a sniff and then tell us what you are smelling and tasting and what you think. With the food pairing ideas, I mentioned kind of like the general ones, but then I am giving kind of more specific. And one of the things I love about Liocco wines is that they're like so detailed in their food pairing information on the side. I mean, they're so detailed in all their stuff, all of their They have the flavors and the aromas and the tasting notes, and food pairing suggestions. So Korean barbecue is a great way to go. Really squash of any kind, kabocha squash, butternut squash, any kind of like winter squash pasta or risotto or anything with that would be amazing. But also just some like grilled flank steak. Nikki saying that she's getting a little bit of licorice. I'm down with that. Others? We both like it, enjoying the darker fruit and the smoky meatiness. Drew could confuse it for Cab Franc, which he loves. Such a good point. So I have found that people who like Cabernet Franc often like Carignan and vice versa. There's an herbaceousness to Carignan that feels very familiar to Cab Franc. Amazingly, they're not related. I kind of couldn't believe it in my research that they don't have a parent in common, because I do think that they're pretty similar. I think the tannins are for real. Is anybody else experiencing that? I feel like there's definitely a slight chalkiness to it. Totally agree. Yeah. And that would be one of those cases where if you enjoy that, continue to drink. If you're like, it's not really exactly what I want, you could decant it. If you do not have a fancy decanter, that is totally okay. What all you need to do to decant is to pour it into anything else, any other thing. So it can be a large mason jar, it can be a water pitcher, it can be whatever you have on hand. But that will soften those tannins out, and it does make the wine a bit more cohesive. Margaret and Eric are saying allspice and hibiscus. I like hibiscus. I mean, I like allspice as well, but I think hibiscus is a very spot on thing. Yeah. And Katya and Drew were saying definitely tannins for real, right? Like for real. And then thinking that it's balanced well with the acid. I agree. It's one of the things that I like the most about Lioko wines. They do have, they are a winery that was started by two people who were in the wine profession. I want to say one of them was a sommelier and one of them was maybe in wine retail, I think, or perhaps as a distributor. But either way, they came together with a real love of food and wine. And that's why they always have, they always give you some wine food pairing ideas and stuff. But then it's also why their wines have more acid than I think a lot of people would expect from anything from California, but particularly, Carignan from California. Like, okay, I don't know what to expect here. Side note, in case you were wondering about the name of the wine, they also make sativa. Both are Carignans. They did it to honor the great crop of Mendocino and why Mendocino's a thriving place. So that is why they are named what they are named. I don't really know. The idea, I guess, is Indica is the less serious of the two. Like Indica is the more Tuesday night kind of wine, as we are here drinking it. It's a more Tuesday night kind of wine, and sativa is the slightly more serious, more brooding wine. So there you go. I think it's already softening out. I already feel like just the little bit that I had in my glass is kind of rounding out a bit more. I personally, this is why I can't get away from saying that blue and black fruit are options for tasting, because I'm like, it's all blueberry to me. I don't know if anybody else is feeling that. Oh, plums and lots of minerals. Yeah. Lots of minerals, for sure. Other thoughts? Questions? Would love to try other wines from this producer. I highly recommend them. We at the shop we carry their Chardonnay, which is amazing for a $20 California Chardonnay. We have sometimes in and out, we have their Pinot Noir. And then if you listen to my podcast, I don't know if you guys know this, but launched a podcast a couple weeks ago. And in the first episode, we drank one of their single vineyard Chardonnays up against white Burgundy to see if we can tell which one's French and which one's American. I'll let you listen to find out. But yes, so there are other Lioco wines. These are their entry-level wines, which are actually kind of like the top of the table wine price point. So there are other wines available. So if anybody's interested in more Lioco wines than what we carry, feel free to reach out to me, and I can tell you what's available. They're just not going to be $10. Just heads up. Lisa says 3 thumbs up from your group. That's great. I'm glad to hear it. One thing that I wanted to mention, just kind of generally speaking, with all of the Carignans, but I think that you can see it a little bit again if you have this bottle. If you don't worry about it. It's not all that particular to the Lioco. One of the interesting things about Carignan is that it grows on these little bush vines, like it grows pretty close to the ground, and it grows very prolifically if it's not well tended. But it's not particularly great results. So you can get a high yield, but the grapes aren't that great themselves. And like I mentioned earlier, it's a late ripening grape. It's also super susceptible to mildew, so a lot can go wrong. So a lot of times with a lot of Carignans, you'll see something to the effect of old vine, or they'll talk about it. So on the back of the Lioco bottle, they mention the historic names of the vineyards. On the tessellai, it says Via Vigne, which is old vine. I don't believe that it says it on our Italian friend, but it's definitely also there. So if you have the chance to visit a winery that grows Carignan, it's pretty cool because they're very like small, kind of gnarly old vines. And the reason that they talk about the old vine thing, it's not necessarily a mark of quality. It's not, just in case you've ever wondered that. It's often a marketing tool. But in the case of Carignan, it lasts a really long time because they're close to the ground. If they're in the right place, if they're being tended well, they do really well, and they'll last a really long time. Whereas other grapes can be a little bit more fickle. So, yeah. Is Mendocino known for this old world savory vibe in general? That's a really good question. I don't know that I feel like I am super well versed enough in all Mendocino wines to say yes or no. I will say that what I have seen, tasted, that's available in Madison from Mendocino, and definitely what I carry in the shop from Mendocino has this kind of old world vibe for sure. It's one of the reasons that I love to get to engage in a conversation with people about wine, because I know myself, and I'm an old world person. Like I would gravitate towards Europe more than I would gravitate towards the United States. But then there are these wineries like Lioco, like Folk Machine, where I'm like, yeah, but like what they're doing is super cool. What the kinds of wines they're making are really great. So don't rule it all out. So, again, there's not like a huge swath of Mendocino wines in Madison, to my knowledge. But yes, from what I've seen, yeah, they tend to be a little less extracted. It's a little cooler there, higher altitude in certain spots. So they do tend to go for that style. Any other questions? Is anybody not vibing on this wine? Is anybody like, no, thank you. I don't like this. It's okay to tell me. I didn't make the wine. I like that I'm leaning forward as if I'm going to hear you. I'm not going to hear you, but you might put it in the chat. Okay. All right. Let's move on to Italy. So, as I mentioned when we started, it was originally thought to be the birthplace of Carignan. And that version of the story totally makes sense. Our bottle's gone. You liked it? Oh, snap. That's great. Great. You must have enjoyed it. That's amazing. I love it. And specifically where it was thought to originate from is the island of Sardinia. So that is really where the majority of Italy's Carignan is grown now. Italy is the #1 country for Carignan production at this point. I know of some Carignan that's being grown in Tuscany. So there is some on the mainland. It's not just all in Sardinia, but that is kind of where you can expect it from. The name, if you have the Centati, I don't know why I hold it up. I have a picture of it right there. The Centati, the actual region, the name of the region is Carignano del Solcis. So that is the region on the island of Sardinia. And that is a DOC, which is one of those kind of like classification levels within Italy. And it's one of the most, actually, I would say it is the most well-regarded region for Carignan in the world. That's not to say that there isn't great Carignan from other places, but that's kind of like where it's particularly special there. What you can expect from Carignans from Sardinia are a noticeable spice and then those earth elements. If you remember to that original slide, I kind of group earth and animal together. It's kind of how people talk about those things. So when I say earth, it can be like earthy, you know, like wet earth kind of thing. And it can also be that bacon fat, meaty, smoky meat thing that I was talking about as well. From a food pairing perspective, I like it with something that has a little smoky element to it. So if you're a meat eater, that could be brisket. If you don't want to eat meat that night or you never eat meat, roast some eggplant, get a really nice char on it and make a pasta. It can be with Gouda, whether that's smoked Gouda or not. Some nice like aged nutty cheese would be amazing with it. So let me know what you think of this one. This wine also, I will mention, this wine has a bit more age on it. So the Indica is 2019, relatively new, whereas the Centati is 2016. So it has, so you can kind of get a sense of like what does 5 years do? Why would I ever want to put a bottle in my closet and forget about it? Much more warm spices with this one, more smoky, spicy aromas compared to the fruity aromas I got on the first one. I agree. I feel like it's almost like it almost smells like Penzeys spices. You know, that like amalgamation of like all of the spices, all of the herbs. The aftertaste is like smoky ham. I love it. I love, love, love it. I feel like a sneeze coming on, everybody. I'm sorry. I'm trying to not have it happen. I do think there's some fruit there. But the spices, the warm spices, right? It just feels like the holidays. It just feels like the holidays to me. Like it's just like, right? It just feels like it smells like Christmas. Yeah, I feel like I'm getting spice and a little smoke and some nice black fruit leaps out of the glass. Definitely getting the leather wet earth. Would guess Italy for sure. Oh, that's an interesting thing to say, that it tastes Italian to you or smells Italian to you. That's cool. I don't know if I would. It's Curious. I don't know if I would. I'll say I would. Sure, I could blind taste this. I would know. I would know that it's Carignan from Sardinia. I don't think I would know that. This is really in keeping with every Sardinian Carignan that I've had the chance to try. This is really in keeping with that style. I think that spice is just really fantastic. It just has like such a lingering spicy finish that is great. Less acid than the first and more smoky, meaty flavors. Yeah, and I think that smoke, meat, leather, earth, all of those things that are coming out. It's a combination of both. Just it is Sardinian, and that's what their Carignan tastes like, and then also that age. So it's gonna not have quite as much acid up front because it's had some time for that. The acid kind of dies down over time, and then it here you are with this earthy loveliness. It's interesting. I tasted this wine a while ago. I mean, like a while ago, but it was this vintage. And when I was picking wines for class, I was hesitant because in my notes, it was like, I led myself to know that like I liked this wine, but that it was very meaty and very smoky. And so when I picked it for tonight, I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. Like how smoky, how bacony is it going to be? I don't feel like, personally, I do not feel like it is overwhelming on that side of the spectrum. Let me know if you disagree. I'm totally open to you not being on my side of that. Oh, it goes well with Hook's sheep Gouda. That sounds delicious. That sounds like a great pairing. When you have something that has some of those smoke and meat elements, it's really kind of up to you to decide whether you want to play up those elements, pair it with something that's, that is smoky or roasted or kind of, anything in that family where it is going to kind of like amplify it together. Or if it's a matter of like, I don't like totally love that, or it can be a little overwhelming. And so then you would want something like cheese or pasta to kind of counterbalance that. Up to you. I know I like push this hard as Thanksgiving wine, and I'm not taking that back. But I also think that it's like I think all of them, they're also really great pizza wine. More, I think, red sauce than not, but I feel like they'd just be so great with a whole slew of pizzas. Yeah. Now I feel like I'm getting more of there. Thinking some pasta bolognese would be very tasty with this. Something with pork Italian sausage. Yeah, I completely agree. If there are any vegans out there tonight, I'm sorry that we're just talking about meat. I like the category of pizza wine. Pizza wine's like a real category, I organize everything in the shop by country other than like bubbly and rosé. But I think that if I were feeling a little cheeky, I might do, pizza wine as a thing. I also like how the bottle label says to uncork the bottle 1 hour beforehand. Does it say that? Where does it say? In this best enjoyed? Oh, uncorking the bottle 1 hour beforehand. Do you like that it says uncork the bottle because it's a screw cap? Or do you like that it says that just because you like that it's giving you direction? Because I kind of enjoy both things. Screw cap, right? And yet they say uncork it. That's kind of amazing. I almost wonder how long has that been on the back label of this wine? Has that been their copy for this from when they used to have corks? I'm curious. Yeah. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention in all of my research was that they recommend drinking the powers that be, I'm trying to remember where this bit of knowledge was from. Maybe from Jancis Robinson. who is a wine writer. But they said, serve at European room temperature. And I was like, oh, good to know, because the Europeans have, a better understanding of what room temperature means, a different understanding of what room temperature means. And then on this bottle, it says 68 degrees. And I'm like, I feel like we can all, maybe we all keep our homes warmer than that. Anyway, diversion. Fallon says theirs is tasting better after sitting a little while. Totally, right? Like I said at the beginning, these are wines that can benefit from some of that. The late ripening thing leads to the higher acidity, right? So it is why Carignan, we're going to get to this when we move to France, but Carignan is often blended with grapes like Grenache and Syrah. And it has more acidity than those grapes typically do. Definitely more than Syrah typically does. But because it doesn't ripen quite as late, it can have that kind of tart fruit quality to it, which maybe you love, maybe you don't love. I think we saw it much more on the first wine than we're seeing on the second wine. But that is one of the reasons that breathing just kind of lets it come together a little bit more. Whereas with a Grenache or a Syrah, general, $15 kind of blend of those things, you wouldn't necessarily need to decant or let it sit. Other thoughts, questions about this? And to Courtney and Matt's point of please do pizza wine, I'll do a pizza. Sure. Can do a pizza wine something. Pizza wine display, pizza wine social media post. We eat enough pizza in our house. I have a 9-year-old. There's a lot of pizza. All right. Any other thoughts, questions? I like it. Very different from the first. Wouldn't have guessed that they were the same grape. I totally agree. I totally agree. And like I said earlier, I think that they're both very indicative of where they come from. So these are the two that I picked for tonight for various reasons, but they are similar to ones that I have had from their individual places. So I think that's particularly fun and cool to know that you can kind of get such a different experience depending on where you're getting the wine from. It's I think that it's a lot of grapes have that. Obviously, a lot of grapes have that. But, if you think of Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand and Loire Valley, France, they're completely different beasts. You kind of have a moment of are these seriously the same grape? How is that possible? I feel like we're kind of experiencing that a bit ourselves tonight, which is, I think, really fun. I think it's way more interesting to taste that than to be yeah, they all taste the same. Everybody seems to be in for pizza wine. Do you guys want to do pizza wine class? Should we have? Yes. Okay. I just got yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, okay. 100%. Okay, great. Yes. Okay, great. I don't know that I've ever gotten so many responses all at one time. Okay, let's do it. What are we doing this winter? We can get pizza and drink wine. Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. I will happily do it. I think some of you, I don't know. I think some of you who are here tonight, when I was teaching classes in person, I did a series of food pairing classes, and it was, we did Thai food one night and got food from Monsoon Siam. We did a potluck, and I went to the co-op and got all the kind of things that you would get at a potluck, cheese and green salads and all that kind of stuff where you're I don't know what people are going to have. And then we also did pizza. And it was amazing. So we can all recreate that, guys. Courtney and Matt are saying screw caps only. Okay. Maybe pop top. I might have to throw that in there, but I'm down. I'm down for the challenge of no corkscrew. That feels right. And Douglas is saying that he's looking forward to tasting in person, hopefully soon. I hope hopefully soon too. I think realistically, I got a little bit more time just for the way that my life is organized. I think other people can be doing things in person as they see fit. Okay. Are we ready to go to France? Let's do it. So, here's a fun fact about Carignan in France. It grows like a freaking weed in certain parts of France. Like I've mentioned that when it's not tended well, it's like low little bush vines that kind of go everywhere. And for that reason, it was the most widely planted grape in France for a long time, and up until as recent as the 1970s. To realize like now it's not that recent, right? It is 50 years ago. But in wine terms, French wine terms particularly, that's kind of sort of recent. It was the most widely planted grape. And there was a lot of garbage. There was a lot of really bad Carignan. It was grown. The most common region for it is the Languedoc-Roussillon, which is the southeastern chunk of France. It's warm there. It's sunny there. It's very Mediterranean. And so Carignan grows. It just doesn't make particularly good wine. So in the 80s, the powers that be in the tiers of French bureaucracy, as you might imagine, that determine wine and quality of wine and the AOC process and all of that stuff, they came through and they made people just like rip up a massive amount of Carignan to the point where it didn't almost get wiped out, but it really, really, really declined the numbers and there was very little made. So now we're back into like, there's some Carignan, there's not a ton of it. You don't see that much single varietally. It's more used in blends, and they're trying to like keep it all in check because it really just was bad. It was jug wine, kind of cheap plonk. Not like good table wine, but it's like, oh, what a deal. It's more like, that's going to give me a headache. That's terrible. So here in France, if you can believe it, it's the warmest of our spots so far. So the fruit is more prominent. It's a little riper. You get a little less earth, with our Lioko, we had fruit, but we had minerals. With our Santati, we all talked about the smoke and the meatiness, right? And then with the Tesseli, you're going to get a little herbaceousness, but a lot more fruit. Food pairings. It is super flexible. It's so great with any of those baking spice things. So things with Chinese 5-spice, curries of a lot of different kinds, but particularly Massaman curry. I did this wine, a different vintage of this wine for Wine Club a little while ago, and recommended it for people with these these food pairings, and heard a lot of really great feedback from folks. So I particularly feel solid about those. Fallon is saying they prefer this one the best, but it's very fruity. It is very fruity. There is like a little spice there at the finish, just like that little bit of pepper, like somebody's grinding a pepper mill over here while I am drinking my wine over here. Like they're not totally together. How do other people feel about it? It has some nice tannins. Katya really likes this one. Really likes it. So does Drew. It's neat how there's so much fruit, but it's also got the tannins. I agree completely. It really is a surprising little wine. I think it's surprising. At least it is to me. Like I feel like I smell it. It does have a little booziness to it. Kathleen and Richard are saying that they really like this one too, which is so great. Thank you. I'm glad to hear it. This is 14.5%. And I feel like it kind of smells that way. Like I feel like it's got that little, I don't know. Hi, I'm a boozy red. Here I am. I'm gonna make your cheeks warm. But then you sip it. And I feel like there's a lot of fruit and then some spice and then some tannin. My mouth is watering. There's nice acidity. I think many of you are eating. Tell me how it goes with what you have on your plate right now. But it makes me want to have food is why I bring that up. Like it feels very food friendly. It feels like a wine I want on my table. It smells a lot like blueberry pie, again with the dark fruit plus cinnamon, but tastes more savory. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It does really have a blueberry pie kind of thing, doesn't it? I've never had raspberries and black pepper before together, but it feels like that's what's happening in my mouth right now. And I enjoy it. I think of the 14.5% wines that I've tasted in my day. This is one of the more balanced ones. I think it does keep things in check. Yeah. It's nice to revisit. I know that most of you, this is a new wine, but for me, this is a revisiting like an old friend kind of thing. And it's just kind of nice, like something like indica, I will bring home from time to time. And so I feel like I'm more like, oh yeah, I know what that one tastes like. Right. But then with something like the Tesla, I'm like, oh yeah, hey, I remember you. You used to be on the shelf and then you were gone and now you're back again, which is so fun. Let's see. Landmark Creamery Sweet Annie cheese is a great pairing with all three. Oh, that's cool. Can you tell me more about Sweet Annie? I don't know that one of hers. I love Landmark cheeses. She makes just such great cheese, but I'm curious with that. And let's see. Carol says all have been good with our cheese plate with brie, aged cheddar, and Bella Vitano. Yeah. Well, Bella Vitano is like, please. The cheese is ridiculous. Like it's so good with like everything, right? That's great. Oh, Margaret and Eric are saying hard sheep's milk. Right, great. So like I had said on one of the slides for one of the cheeses, I had said Manchego. I think maybe, is it this one? It is this one. Yeah. So that would be very similar, kind of like in that same-ish vein, right? Yeah. Oh, that's great. I'm so glad so many of you have cheese. That is really, I think, a great food to go with all of these wines. So the thing I will say about our French Carignan friends, it's kind of the polar opposite of our California friends. So whereas in California, if you see Carignan, you know that the winemaker is doing it for some like, I don't know, reason of the heart. Or they really like love Carignan. Like Lioco's jam is Chardonnay and Pinot Noir and then Carignan. That's it. They do lots of different bottlings. But their rosé is rosé of Carignan. At least has been historically. So if you see Carignan from California, you can kind of guess that like the winemaker is doing it because they take Carignan seriously. And that's unusual in California. If you see French Carignan, you need to tread a little more carefully. There's some really great French Carignan, some very affordable. I think some of you might know, I'll drop it in the chat, the winery is Dupia, but the Les Héritiques, with the blue label and the stars, we've had it from the day we've opened. That's 100% Carignan. I think there is good Carignan, but because it's so ubiquitous there, there's some meh Carignan. So just like be a little careful. And then with Italy, you're not going to see straight Carignano all that frequently outside of Sardinia. When you do, it's going to taste very much like the Centati. So up to you to kind of decide if you like that or not. Kathleen and Richard have a Hook's Swiss and jalapeno cheddar. Ooh, spicy. I wonder what the best one is with the jalapeno cheddar. I'm curious because these do have a little acidity. So I'm like wondering if they're making the cheese too spicy or is it just like the right amount? Let me know. Kristen and Patty are saying that it's just a little too light bodied to be a true winter day. Sit by a fire with a blanket wine, but it has all those flavors and the booziness. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a fall wine day, don't you? It's like a fire pit wine, right? It's not like it's February and I'm curled up and I don't want to see anybody ever again. It's like, oh yeah, I could still have a friend over and sit by the fire, right? Yes. I think it's like exactly that. It's a little boozy. Like I said, it's going to make my cheeks warm. I'm amazingly not bright red, but you know, it's going to do that. You're having with the currant wine. Kathleen and Richard are having their jalapeno cheddar with the currant wine because of the fruitiness. That makes sense to me. That was kind of my thought, but I was like, I don't know. It might be great with all three. Who knows? Yeah, it's a fire pit wine. Or, if you will, a Thanksgiving wine. That amount of fruit, don't be afraid of that amount of fruit for Thanksgiving at all, because, there's fruit on the Thanksgiving table. So a fruity wine is a nice thing to have alongside, for sure. We had jalapeno cheddar cornbread with our brisket. Oh my God. Yum. That sounds great. There are very few things, side note, sorry, diversion. There are very few foods that I don't make. I don't know that there's any food other than brisket that I don't make because my mom makes such a good version of it. My mom is a very good cook, and I learned to cook from her. And I don't rule anything out. Like, I'm not like, oh, well, mom always makes whatever, so I can't make it. But brisket, for some reason, I'm just like, oh, but I love my mom's brisket. I don't need anybody else's. So thanks. Now I'm missing my mom's brisket. Fire pit wine, some fallen leaf vibes, remind us a bit of a really nice Uco Valley Malbec, which we think of as fall wines. I think that's really spot on. I really agree. It has that spice. It has that whiff of earth or minerals, kind of depending on who you are, what your palate's tasting that day, that I often get in Uco Valley Malbecs. So that's really cool. Yeah, I think that's a cool through line. In addition to our pizza wines, fire pit wines is a thing, we're not going to have a tasting of a fire pit, but just imagine us all being together. Patty says that I haven't had mine brisket. I'm not saying yours wouldn't be good. I just like my mom's is all. That's all I'm saying. It's not no shade to anybody else's brisket. I like when Underground Butcher was on Willie Street, they had brisket and I'd go get it and it was delicious. And also, Patty, where I work. If you want to, drop some smoked brisket off for a gal, I'm there. Just throwing that option out there. All right, we are coming up on time. I am so curious because the wines are so different from each other, what everybody's preference was for. Which one did you like the best? We were talking about it between 1 and 2, but I think 3 then gave us a different avenue, right? I do think that they're very, very different wines. So I'm super curious to see. Cali, France, Italy, number 3 for both of you. Okay, cool. Already divisive. I love it. Love, love, love. Really like number 3. Great. France, Cali, Italy. Great. Italy, France, California, France, Italy. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that is a couple where France is their middle one. So I guess you're probably going to end up buying the French one more often than the other 2, right? All 3 went with your food pairings, which is super great. France and Italy are tied for top, then California, Italy top, France, and then California. Super cool. Italy by just a hair. That's great. I really love to see that much variation in people's answers. There's nothing wrong if we collectively all agree, oh yeah, we all like that one more. That's not a problem, but it is really fun when it's oh, look, we see, different people, different palates, different things. That's the best thing, right? Because that's what wine is all about. Margaret and Eric split vote, 3 voters, 3 votes. Love it. That's great. Carol, Italy, California, France, and Megan is France, Italy, California. Yeah, guys, we're just like all over the map with this stuff. Kristen and Patty said, assuming you would have included a Spanish one if we had been in person. Yeah, so when I taught wine classes in person, which has been quite a long time now, quite honestly, since I've done that, I traditionally poured 6 wines. And so then for virtual wine classes, I just realized that 6 bottles of wine is, a financial endeavor that some people don't want to do, understandably. And that maybe for you, 3 open bottles of wine is a lot to have in your home, let alone 6 open bottles. I think our first wine class I did at the beginning of the pandemic, I thought I was like, oh, I'm going to whittle it down to 5. And then everybody said, holy crap, Molly, what am I supposed to do with 5 bottles of red wine? How am I supposed to drink it all? And I was like, oh, sorry, everybody. So we've whittled it down to 3. It's a great question to ask, what else would I have included? I can't say for sure what I know the other 5 would be, the other 3 would be, but definitely there would have been a Spanish one in there. Carignan is the main grape in the Priorat region in Spain. So that would have been my Spanish pick for sure to include. So that would have been that. In terms of what else I would have done, there may have been like a Carignan blend so that you can kind of get a sense of what happens with Carignan when it's blended. Also, I'm not going to lie, some of these virtual classes are actually easier for me than in person because I'm only picking 3, because sometimes there aren't 6 great examples of a thing. There are only 3, or maybe there are 4 and I have to pick, rule 1 out, but it's a lot easier for me. There have been things like Carignan that I have not taught in person ever before because there isn't enough breadth. So there we go. Fallon is asking what my preference is. I don't know that people usually ask me that. I think I usually sneak off without telling people. Good question. I think tonight my mood, what I'm having for dinner is really in my mind right now. I'm I know that I'm about to go eat cacciatore. And so I'm feeling Italy tonight. I'm feeling the smoky earthiness tonight, a little bit of spice. I think over time, the indica will be my jam. But the tannins, the upfront tannins, not my personal preference, but I really liked all 3. There's no shade on the Frenchie at all. I think the French, like I said, it was hey, old friend. Margaret and Eric say, California is an entertaining extrovert and France is a thoughtful introvert. Interesting. I feel like the Tesla is the friendlier one. I feel like the Tesla is just hey, world, here I am, come like me. And it's the other 2 that are a little more I'm in the corner with just my close friends. Just throwing that out there. Kathleen and Richard said that I picked 3 great wines. I'm really glad to hear it. Thank you. That's very nice of you to say. I'm really glad. I feel I'm really glad that so many of you had never had Carignan before, or at least not knowingly. And now you have a really, wide array of things to choose from. It's already time, friends. So if you have any lingering questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And what do I want to say? We have sherry class coming up next week, which I am so excited about. If you are hesitant because you think you don't like sweet wine, 2 of the 3 wines are dry. So you will only have 1 small bottle of sweet wine. So consider joining us because we'll probably eat olives and potato chips. So that's great. Let's see. Oh, thank you. Oh, Kristen and Patty said they continue to like the single grape focus classes best. I agree. If there are other grapes, I know that we've all love pizza wine class, and I'm totally here for it. But if there are other grapes that people want to learn about, please let me know what they are, because I kind of look back through over what I've taught and I don't want to repeat things too much. But I don't know how far down this rabbit hole we all want to go. We can keep going. There are lots of weird grapes out there that we can find 3 of. So, Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much. 3 of us over here, and this is our first table wine tasting. Oh, I'm so glad. That's so cool. I'm so glad that you joined us. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely evening. Enjoy your red wines, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye, everybody.